have any idea what I'm doing, and I've never done this before. I'm working on the first gen again tonight. In the last video, I was able to do a little bit more prep work and get a little bit closer to getting the rear end all finished up. Basically, all that I have left to do is get shocks figured out and mounted, and then get my anti-wrap link built and mounted onto the truck as well. I still have yet to go buy some DOM steel, so I need to do that before I can build my link. If you haven't watched the previous videos, I am trying to mount some 14-inch bilsteins under the rear end of my first gen 4Runner that I also just recently swapped to a Chevy 63 leaf spring. I want to get all of this stuff mounted up there without doing any cutting. That's the goal. I don't know if it's going to be possible. These shocks are very large compared to the space that I have to work with, so I'm going to throw the axle under there, throw some wheels and tires back on it, start checking clearances and see if it's even going to work. I've been absolutely going through it trying to figure out the shock setup on this truck. I spent some time trying to figure out outboard. This axle is just set up for outboard shocks, so figured it would save me some time. Basically, I got one shock hoop on, mounted everything up, got the shock mocked in there, and there is just no clearance. So I pretty much scrapped that idea and then went back to getting a triangulation setup going on. Basically what I've been working on was getting a cross member built and then two shock mounts. Those are like roughly a 45-degree angle towards the outside of the axle. I just got the lower shock mounts tacked in place on the axle. So I need to get this thing back up on jack stands, get the rear axle pulled back out, weld those lower shock mounts fully in, get the cross member fully welded in, chop off the old shock brackets off this axle, get it all cleaned up and painted, back onto the truck, and we should be able to put shocks on this thing. I built the bracket for the anti-wrap link today at work. I went ahead and ordered new brackets off of Trail Gear. I gotta obviously do some trimming to make it fit. And then once I get this welded on, we'll get it painted up, do some more measurements. Still need to chop off the original shock mounts, so gonna do that as well. Clean up the axle as much as I can, just so it's nice and simple. Yeah, I don't have any idea what I'm doing, and I've never done this before. Do you know what I'm building?
Yes.
What? This thing?
You are building.
I have them on the 3rd gen, kind of like a
Control arms.
kind of. It's actually an anti-wrap link, but it's basically a control arm.
Tight in there.
Yeah, I have a lot of room to work. Thanks. Mopped up the floor pretty good.
All right, am I done?
Yeah, you're done. right, just finished getting the anti-wrap link thrown in the truck. So at the moment, everything is kind of done in the rear end. There's still some fine tuning that needs to be done. There's a couple angles where the shocks mount into the upper cross member and stuff like that I'm not super pleased with. Just had to fight the bolts to go in and out. So want to adjust those, make sure everything's nice and easy and serviceable. Didn't do a ton of explaining earlier in the video. Basically, the upper cross member I added in there. There's about a 2-inch gap in between the shocks, and then they angle down pretty much as far out as they'll go on the inside of the leaf springs. And then everything is angled back towards the back of the truck to follow the line of travel a little bit better, as well as I kind of just had to find an angle that wanted to work, seeing as how these shocks are really tall and I wasn't trying to chop into the bed. I think this will work out for now. This leaves about 6 inches of shock exposed at ride height. So ideally I'll get 5-6 inches of up travel and about 9 inches of down travel, somewhere in that range. Not exactly sure on how this setup's going to work out until I can get the truck out of the garage and fully flex test everything. Still have a bunch of fine tuning to do. I won't bore you guys with all of that. Hopefully in the next video, I'll be able to get the rear end all tied up and start moving on to some different aspects of the truck. But yeah, basically in the beginning, I tried to do outboard shocks. Did a ton of measuring, put the wheels on, did some flex testing a little bit, and there was just zero clearance for those shocks to fit. So went ahead and scrapped that whole idea and then ended up with this one. Really hoping it works out. Definitely don't want to have to redo this entire setup, but if you guys have any advice on like a triangulation setup like this and, you know, think that I did something wrong or could do something better, definitely feel free to leave it in the comments. But anyways, I'm going to wrap this one up. I appreciate all you guys that watch the channel, and I will see you next weekend.